Welcome back in, everybody, to a Football Friday edition of Birds 365 here on JAKIB Sports. I'm your host, Zander Krause. That's my co-host, Johnny Mack, John McMullen. John, we've officially made it all through the offseason, and the Eagles camp kicks off next week. We've been recapping it here on today's Football Friday edition. We'll continue that recap today. But, man, I'm happy that the season is upon us. Johnny Mack and the Eagles are obviously now the hunted. They are no longer hunting. They are the top of the NFL, and they will work to, what are you saying, not repeat. They must defend their title. Is that fair to say?
They're the reigning champions.
Reigning champions.
I say if they win, they will have won 2 consecutive Super Bowls.
There you go. So we'll see what they end up doing. John, I'm going to continue where we were on running down kind of the recap of the offseason. We just went through the offensive side of the ball, had some great super chats, some great questions, which we appreciate from all of our great people in the chat. It's good to see all you guys in the chat, by the way. A couple of our guys trickling back in, so it's good to see everybody. John, let's move into the defense a little bit and some of the deals that happened this offseason. Not too many outside of the Timu signings. Jordan Davis's 5th-year option was picked up, so we'll see about what type of long-term extension, if any, comes for Jordan Davis. Jalen Carter, as we talked about, is entering a contract year. So after this season, he will be eligible for an extension. Milton Williams and Josh Sweat signed elsewhere. Darius Slay signed elsewhere. Uche and Ojulari come in. Zach Bond got locked up for 3 years, $51 million. A lot of moving parts, John, on that defense. C.J. Gardner-Johnson, I should mention that, was traded away. Adoree Jackson brought in, and 2 draft picks in the top 2 rounds, Andrew Makuba and Jahad Campbell. A lot of moving parts, John, on the defense this offseason, and a lot of questions coming in for the 2025 season on the defensive side of the ball. A lot more so than the offensive side.
Yeah, I'm surprised there's not more concern from the fan base, but I guess, similar to the Eagles, in Vic we trust. And he did it 1 year, so I guess I get the philosophy of why can't he do it again? But you lost some good players, really good players, and not only the top tier guys, but also the second tier guys like Oren Burks, who came in and was lights out in the playoffs, and Isaiah Rodgers, who was tremendous as a sort of cornerback 3 who had to play a little bit. Guys like that. Injury to Nakobe Dean, not going to be there week 1. We'll see how quickly he can get back. Jahad Campbell, which is, it's a give and take. I think people worried about week 1 are missing the boat there. I mean, there's a reason you got him at 31. And he wouldn't have been there. You wouldn't have gotten him if he was healthy. So there's a give and take, and I think there should be a little bit more patience there. Like, I wouldn't worry about week 1. You want him on the field this year, but
I like your comp to last year's Cooper DeJean. Like, imagine if we were upset about Cooper DeJean because he didn't play in week 1. You know what I mean? The give it time.
Well, some people were. I mean,
yeah, I know. I get it.
And but to me, that's more about the longer term, even about 2026, to be honest, because if Nakobe does get back by, say, week 8, we'll say halfway through the season, or now that the NFL has ruined that, we can't with 17 games, but about halfway through the season, it's going to be Nakobe and Zach. At least if Vic is telling the truth, and I've never known him to lie. So, it might be more about 2026 and beyond. And then it becomes, what does the pass rush look like? Do they need to get him on the field there? And hopefully you get him on the field for a package, yada, 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 whatever. But I don't think it's about the immediacy for that player. I think it's more about the immediacy with Drew Makuba. Because now that it's become more evident with CJ coming out with his description of what went on, they were going to cut CJ. He wasn't coming back. It wasn't like they said, oh, there's a reclamation project, and Kenyon Green was a first-round pick, and we're trying to replicate Mekhi Becton. Had nothing to do with that. They were going to cut him, and they happened to able to work out a deal, get a potential reclamation project, plus some draft positioning, and get something for him. But if they didn't, Howie gave the call, hey buddy, we're going to let you go. So they were always planning to move on from CJ Gardner-Johnson, and the belief in Sidney Brown is not that concrete because they drafted Drew Makuba in the second round. And he's more of a Vic Fangio style player. I would say at safety, more of a coverage player. And they want him to get on the field quicker. So I think the immediacy standpoint, I think it's more important with Makuba than it is with Campbell.
We'll see what ends up happening there, Johnny Mack. John, your thoughts on that Jordan Davis move? I mentioned that they picked up the fifth-year option on him. A lot of questions on this defense, but I think he's one of the guys that is really a big catalyst for how successful the defense can be this year. What's your thoughts right now as we enter training camp on him? I think it's fair to say typically by this point for a player drafted that high, the Eagles would have liked to have gotten a long-term deal done. I don't think they're going to pick up the fifth-year option on Jalen Carter. They didn't do it on Devontae Smith. I don't expect them to do it. I guess well, they did it with Nolan. Well, we'll see what they do with Nolan, but I thought they would have had the deal done. I think picking up the fifth-year option with no deal would show you that maybe the Eagles aren't fully sold on that player. How do you view that situation here coming into training camp with Jordan Davis?
Well, they have time because of the fifth-year option. So that's a lot of things where, there's certain slam dunks where they do want to go early, as early as possible. And there are other ones who aren't slam dunks. And I think it's fair to say that Jordan Davis is not a slam dunk, and that's why they'll wait and see how this year goes and then make the decision, because they're not going to want him to play on the fifth-year option. So they'll probably make a decision after this year. And who knows if he's lights out, maybe he can get something done during the season. There's no rule against that, but so it depends how you frame it. But we've talked about that player a lot, and I think Howie probably learned something from that pick, because it is the disconnect between expectations of where he was selected and what style of player he is. But I think, the name I constantly hear is Dexter Lawrence. Dexter Lawrence. Can he be more like Dexter Lawrence? And it happened to be, I'm glad you brought up Jordan Davis, because I meant to bring up this of all the stats I saw this week, and I'm not a big stat guy, but this one blew me away. Total pressures when lined up as a true nose tackle over the last 3 seasons. Number 1 is Dexter Lawrence, which shouldn't surprise people.
Nope.
With 96. Number 2 has 20.
Holy
he ain't
moly.
becoming Dexter Lawrence.
Or close. Dexter Lawrence is that good. That is a nuts statistic.
But that's an example of, because he's on a shitty team, and I don't think people understand how good and how rare Dexter Lawrence is. So that's just a comp that's not realistic.
Right.
So again, it's like, how high do you want to go with a player that's very good at what a typical nose tackle does? And that's tie up blockers, make things easier for Zach Bond and Nakobe Dean. How valuable is that? And you can say, well, it's not that valuable and just get somebody else, but there aren't a lot of guys who do it as well as Jordan Davis. But the pass rushing part of it is the problem. And I've tried to say that many times over the years. Where are the good pass rushing nose tackles? Well, there's one in Vita Bay, you could argue. And to me, that's the one I've always used, or even going back to Haloti Ngata in his prime, not when he was here, that type of player, that to me is where you want Jordan Davis to go. And that's the guy who pushes the pocket, pushes the interior of the pocket, not necessarily sacks. You know, you've been doing this show long enough to know with me, Zander, that there's two things that drive me insane. One is grading quarterbacks on Super Bowl victories, and two is sacks. But even more so with nose tackles. Nose tackles. Why are you even talking about sacks? But I mean,
I actually know that about you more from when I produced this show and wasn't the host, because I actually agree with you on sacks. Jody did not agree with you on sacks, so you guys fought about it often. You know what I mean? Me and you don't fight about it because I agree with you. I don't think they're as important as people.
Well, it's even I mean, that's I discovered with pass rushers. I mean, there are certain guys. It is important for edge rushers, and certain guys set themselves apart and are finishers and are consistent.
Yeah, but even for them, I don't think it's as important as people think. Like, look at Josh Sweat last year; 8.5 sacks, but he was such a good anchor as a defensive end. I'd rather have that than a guy that gets 17, you know, or is like Hassan Reddick, who was great, by the way, but didn't do the other things well. I think Vic wants somebody that can do everything well instead of Vic, a 17 sack guy. You know,
Vic does want somebody. Well, he wants somebody to do everything well, but get 17 sacks.
Yeah, that's ideal, but those are few and far between.
Yeah, Khalil Mack type players, which are few and far between, or Von Miller in his prime.
What about TJ Watt, who just got 30 something or $40 million?
Well, TJ's a great pass rusher. I saw Ed taking strays. Poor Ed Kratz writing about Von. Look, somebody's like, hey, do me a favor, compare TJ Watt in the playoffs to Nolan Smith in the playoffs. And I'm like, geez, really? It is like almost the quarterback bet. You're comparing Nolan Smith to TJ freaking Watt?
No, I'm not. Not
me, you. I'm not saying you.
Yeah, I know.
But getting back to the sack standpoint, even more so at nose tackle. Like, and look, I'll be honest with you. There's probably, I don't want to put percentage on it, but most people don't even understand the difference between nose tackle and 3 technique and 4-eye and 5 and 7 and 9 and the techniques to play on the defensive line. But you shouldn't be ever talking about sacks with nose tackles unless it's somebody like Dexter Lawrence, who is just ridiculously good and can actually do both. The average nose tackle is out there to do one thing, and that's tie people up to make it easier for everybody else. And by the way, push the pocket when the quarterback does drop back, like Vita Vea. And if you do that, you're a great nose tackle. And can Jordan Davis get to that level? I haven't seen it, but there's still, he's gotten in better shape. We do this story every year. He's paid the same lip service every year, but he's doing it this time, or at least he was doing it with the Peloton. We'll see if it continues, and I think that will help. But right now he's a good player, not a great player.
Agree with that. Then you got Jalen Carter up there. We'll see how Moro Jomo fills in for Milton Williams. John, on the edge and linebacker room, you got Sweat and Williams are gone. Uche Ojulari in. Bourne locked up 3 years, $51 million, as I mentioned. Can the edge group maintain the pressure? What do they have to do? It's interesting. I'm curious to see also how they use Zach Bourne, if at all, off the edge. Is he off ball only? I think that's going to be interesting to watch, and what kind of versatility Jahad Campbell might give Vic Fangio if he gets healthy, which I assume he will at some point this season. So a lot to look for there, a lot of potential there, but also a lot of question marks that could go either way. Could work out, could also not work out. How do you see that edge room? I know it's your top concern coming into the 25 season.
Yeah, I don't see many avenues where this team could fall apart on the field. Again, taking injuries out of it. But edge is one I could see it going. I could at least envision it going in a very negative direction. It starts with Nolan. Nolan has to be a really good pass rusher. And I don't mean Josh Sweat good. I mean a really good pass rusher. Because, if you wanted to consider Josh Sweat the leader, and he was last year, Nolan was the complement. Brandon when he was healthy. And down the list. Now everybody's getting kicked up. And Jalix Hunt, which, Eagles gave him explicit instructions, get stronger, gain weight. You got to be the guy. We're going to see how that looks. And then you have the chain move guys that you kind of cross your fingers and throw the dart at the dartboard. It wouldn't surprise me if Antoine Powell-Ryland is getting playing time. It wouldn't surprise me if August 30th they're making a trade for an edge rusher. Would not surprise me at all.
No, it wouldn't me either.
To me, it is the obvious weakness of this team.
I agree. John, moving into the secondary, Mitchell and DeJean obviously returning after two very impressive rookie seasons. Darius Slay gone. James Bradbury gone. CJ Gardner-Johnson gone. Adoree Jackson is in. Andrew Makuba is in. Keely Ringo presumably is in. That's a lot of change in the secondary, John. I know you're more concerned about the edge, as am I, but that secondary's got some questions as well that must be answered.
Yeah, I just think they have a bigger upside, at least in the secondary. But yeah, still concerns. I mean, you lost two playmakers in CJ Gardner-Johnson, Darius Slay. Two big-time players. I mean, and again, I get it from Slay's standpoint, his age and all that, cap casualty. You gotta pull off the Band-Aid. You gotta, or get off the pot with Keely Ringo. If you don't try it this year, you basically wasted his entire rookie contract. So I think it makes sense from a business perspective, but obviously you're going to have some hiccups trying to replace Darius Slay. And then with CJ, I mean, look, the good and bad. If this guy wasn't a pain in the ass, I'm going to make this abundantly clear. He'd be here and he'd be making more money. So, it's hard to say any of these safeties, whether you want to go down to Lewis Seen and Andre Sam, is going to make plays like CJ Gardner-Johnson. What are the odds of that? Now, you can say addition by subtraction, which I think that's a better argument. To not have that distraction, to not have that occasional pain in the ass, maybe that helps you in a different way. But boy, on the field, when you need a big play, I'd rather have CJ than insert name. I'll tell you that.
We'll see what ends up happening with it, Johnny Mack. You're right about that secondary, though. I got a lot of question marks on that secondary. It's going to be interesting to kind of see how that shakes out. Which one are you most confident in? Is it Ringo? I think you've been consistent with that, right, Ringo?
Yeah, I think Ringo's going to be a good player. Again, that doesn't mean there's not going to be hiccups. I think there's going to be some problems. And that might be his biggest. I have no idea. He's very soft spoken, very quiet, polite person. Does he have the mentality to handle the slings and arrows that corners get in this league? I have no idea, because that is a position where you get shit upon, because you got a bunch of people watching it who have no idea what the coverage is, and if you're the closest guy to the streaking receiver, you're a loser, basically. Might not even be your responsibility, but you're the guy trying to track down the receiver in the open field. Boy, you got to be mentally tough to play cornerback, and I have no idea on that part of it. I don't think anybody does. Takes a rare breed. Even Slave's done it at such a high level for so long. It's like, yeah, man. Every once in a while, you hear him to clap back. You don't know ball, something like that, to some fan out there. My number one piece of advice is to Keely Ringo is get the hell off social media, which speaks to how good Quinion and Cooper were last year, because
they were special.
They're beloved because you haven't seen too much negative to this point.
Yeah, no, they were special players last year. There's no doubt about that, Johnny Mack. So a lot of questions here on this defense. Overall, this season comes down to, if young guys pan out, you're in great shape. If they don't pan out, probably fucked. I mean, you're probably not winning a Super Bowl if most of these young guys.
Yeah, I don't think there's any way they're fucked. They're a good team. It's just
no, I don't mean fucked. I mean fucked in the fans' mind, because people think that we are in the golden era and we have a chance to go and repeat as Super Bowl champions, a legitimate chance. And I think even you believe there's a legitimate chance if things go your way. A lot has to go their way, though, and if it doesn't go their way, I think they're pretty quickly not going to be a good enough defense to get back.
Yeah, I had 11 wins going up to 12. That's where I am. But I think they're one of the 5 or 6 teams that have a legitimate shot. And some team will, jump up and add to that mix, and probably 1 or 2 will fall back and fall out. I don't think that's going to be the Eagles. And they're still going to have tremendous confidence, because they're going to be a playoff team. And even in a bad season, which would be not winning the division. And again, I feel like I always bring it up, the caveat: injuries can affect anything. But if they're relatively healthy, they're going to be in the playoffs. And they have they're battle tested. Their core group is battle tested. They know how to win in the playoffs. So even if they get in as a wild card and Washington wins the division, they still have a good chance. I mean, they won 4 games last year, so obviously, going through that extra level, they know how to win. So that's a big part of it as well.
No doubt about it, Johnny Mack. Good stuff there. Let's get to some super chats here. We got some more supers. I appreciate everybody for being here today. We got about 20 minutes left to play here. I think we did a pretty good job of kind of recapping the offseason and then setting the stage for what's coming up here in training camp next week. A lot of questions on defense, not so many questions on offense outside of the coaching staff, which I think is honestly feel pretty good about. Kevin Petula has been in this building since Jalen's been a starter and since Nick Sirianni's been here. So I feel good about that. Hopefully we've recapped and hit on everything you guys wanted us to hit on. If not, drop a super chat below and we will get to it for sure. Brandon Lewis checking in. Brandon, what's up, man? Thank you for the $10 super chat. I appreciate you, brother. Brandon's been here all off season, and we appreciate that support. He's a Johnny Mack super fan. He says, my heart sank when you said Zach Bond got locked up, Zander. LOL. I didn't mean that way, Brandon Lewis. I meant locked up as an Eagle. for the next 3 years. Thank you for the super chat, brother.
Yeah,
Fredo checked in.
you don't have to worry about Zach. Yeah,
He's got a good
rock
head on his
solid.
shoulders.
Yeah.
You can tell.
Yeah, I wouldn't worry.
No doubt. Fredo checks in. He says, ring ceremony what time? 8 p.m.
Can't talk about it.
Yeah, they can't say. They're keeping that close to the vest of Fredo. That's why you don't know, brother. We don't either. Well, John does, but I guess we can't reveal. B. Preston checks in. He says, thank you, brother, for the $5 super chat. Another one of my great viewers over on ZK's Garage. He says, PFF just dropped their top 50 players. 11, Milata. Ooh, very high. 16 is AJ. 19 is Lane. 22 is Saquon. 45 is Jalen Carter. And last but not least, 50, Jalen Hurts. Not bad. Milata is really high.
Well, he should be number one. I don't get PFF sometimes. You graded him as the best player in football, so shouldn't he be number one?
Right.
I mean, again, all these lists depends on people's definitions. And I mean, I've seen them as they go down the list of players. They graded Jordan Mailata as the best player in football. Now, obviously, I was talking about with quarterbacks. Quarterbacks have a bigger impact on the game. That's why when we do our list, Ed and I do our list, I try to describe it as best as possible. Who does their job the best? I had Jordan Mailata very high. Now, I'm not grading Jordan. I don't think he's the best player in football. I'm saying they graded him as the best player in football. So why isn't he number one? But to be Preston's point, they're all good players. By the way, Saquon, they graded Saquon as the 11th best running back, I believe. Why is he 22? I don't fucking know. So yeah, if you like it, like it. If you're disrespected by it, I would say go on to the next list.
Sure, there's a lot of Eagles, man, in that list. So pretty good stuff. B. Preston, thank you, brother. I appreciate you for being here, man. JD checking in. There he is. He says, J Mac, what are you most looking forward to doing at camp? Meeting the new players or seeing the competitions? Seems like it would be awesome. It would be awesome to be there, I'm sure, JD. Or Johnny Mac, your thoughts on that?
It's not awesome, but yeah, I get it from a fan perspective. Football practice is not that exciting. I really get more excited about talking to people I can't talk to normally.
Right.
In post-COVID, that has become a bigger issue around the NFL because they took advantage of that, like everybody did. I think across society as a whole.
Yeah, really.
And now we don't have as much access as we once did. I was talking about like I want to talk to people you don't even think about. Like, because AJ is one of my favorite players, one of my favorite people to cover. I think he's a great dude. I've talked to him a million times. I want to talk to Taylor Morin. I want to talk to undrafted rookies. I want to talk to guys down the roster that maybe have interesting stories and aren't even going to be here. So anyway, it's a little bit different than I think people would expect.
No doubt. JD, appreciate the super chat, brother. $5 today. Appreciate it. And I love the Harrison Bryant picture as well. Prince Swayze checking in. What up, Prince? Good to see you, Prince. Thanks for being here, man. Thank you for the $10 super chat. I appreciate you, brother. He says, Christian Parker speaks highly of Keely Ringo, and he coached players like Pat Surtain, Alexander, and even AJ mentioned Ringo. I believe we have the right coaches. Smitty likes Andrew at safety. So there's a lot of good things there, a lot of good possibilities, a lot of good promises, but still got to see him on the field.
I settled down with the Surtain comp. That's the kind of stuff I talk about. Hey, I'm one of the first. AJ thinks very highly and thinks Keely has a chance to be really good. I've talked about that for a long time now. But we have to see. And I Vic likes Drew at safety, and more importantly than Smitty. So that's why he's here. So hopefully he can live up to the billing. But he is the 64th overall pick. He's not top 10. So again, don't skip steps, as they say.
Yeah, I have some confidence in Ringo. I think he's got all the physical traits, obviously, as we've talked about many times. Will he be able to translate it? Obviously, that's a big question. But you're right. I mean, you hear guys like AJ talk about him. You get kind of excited about the potential of what he can be and how good the secondary could be. But it is a big loss, obviously, with Slay. And we'll see what Ringo can do, Johnny Mack. But I am confident. And I will say you have made me more confident in Keely Ringo because you seem to be confident in him based on what you've been told and talked about with people inside the know.
Yeah, I think it makes sense. Now, there's levels of confidence. Like I think Slay is way better than the average Eagles fan thought he was. Not, I mean, I think he's going to the Hall of Fame. So is he going to be that good? Probably not.
Did any Eagles fans not think Slay was good? I think everybody knew Slay was good.
I've gotten a lot of Slay angst over the years.
Well, I think he missed some games and missed some time, and that always pisses people off. It always will. But
personality, I think, rubs some people the wrong way at times. But yeah, I never got the feeling that they thought he was as good as he was or is, because he still played at a high level last year.
We'll see what happens. This is a good question here. Ryan says, Zander, can we get some clarification on how to pronounce Keely's name? J-Mac says it like Kaylee.
It's Keely. Should be Keely.
Do I say it right? Keely Ringo?
Yeah. Should be that. I don't know how I come across and say it, but yeah, it's one of those names where I probably flub, but it's Keely.
Keely Ringo. Yep. Keely Ringo is good, Ryan. I think that works.
And Drew goes by Drew Makuba.
Yeah, which by the way, I like Andrew so much better. Come on, Drew. But I'll say what he wants, whatever. It doesn't bother me.
Yeah, if they want to be called something, I call them that. That's why there's still a ton of people that call Kenny Gainwell Kenneth, and you'll still see it written more than as Kenneth than Kenny.
I never really understood the Slay thing, where he's like, "I can only be called Slay."
He doesn't like that. He doesn't like his name. So he doesn't like it.
Like your name.
He doesn't like his name.
All right, John. I'm not going to call you John anymore. Yeah. What?
Well, if you ask me to call you Krause, I'd call you Krause. What do I give a shit?
Yeah, that's true. I don't care. I mean, I never.
He likes to be called.
I just thought it was funny how if anybody calls him Darius, it's like, well, dude, that is kind of your name.
He doesn't like his name. I've heard that before. People sometimes don't.
I like the name Darius.
I don't think there's anything wrong with it either. He personally doesn't like it, so he wants to be called Slay. What do I give a shit? I call him Slay.
That's true. I guess none of us pick our names. They're all given to us by our parents or whoever. Ryan, thanks, brother. Appreciate it. Mr. CTE, which is a funny name, checks in, and he says, is Morehead a good wide receiver coach? Top end of that room is elite. I think he meant that room, right? What did you mean? You clarified in the comments what you meant. He said top end of – sorry, bro. Yeah, that room. Top end of that room is elite, but he seems to struggle developing guys under AJ and Smitty.
Well, it's interesting because Aaron was here at the end of Doug Peterson, and he wasn't a Nick Sirianni guy right off. It was, and I know for a fact he thought he had to move on when Doug left, and eventually Nick probably didn't get the guy he wanted, and they went back to Aaron. And since then, he's really developed a close relationship and has gotten over the hump. As far as developing talent, I think he's done a good job. I think this is the deepest wide receiver room the Eagles have ever had. certainly in the Sirianni era. I don't mean in the history of the organization, but I think he's a good coach. I think he's done a good job. Comparing people to AJ and Devontae is not. You don't have third receivers like Jahan Dotson, by far the best third receiver they've ever had, by far.
Yeah,
by leaps and bounds. And they're getting better. And as again, but I think a lot of people with that fourth and fifth wide receiver, again, you have to play special teams. I think people don't.
But can I just say, I would rather grade Morehead on Devontae and AJ.
Well, you should, but
I mean, I know he's not responsible for all of them because they're such inherently talented people, but they came in and AJ got a lot better when he came here to Philly. He did. All right. He was not talked about as a top 5 receiver in Tennessee. Now, maybe he was younger, he was acclimating, whatever the case may be. And Devontae's been pretty lights out since he was drafted here. So I'm going to go off that, not the revolving door of, lesser talent in the back.
I'm kind of the opposite. I'm like, I don't know too many wide receiver coaches that could have screwed up Smitty. I mean, Smitty, like the Eagles went through. I still remember seeing Smitty for the first time that first training camp because the Eagles had been so bad at receiver leading up to that. And I was like 2 practices in, and I said, this guy's different than what they've had.
I remember when you were covering it. Yeah.
He's just really good, and he was really a finished product. And Nick Saban, I guess, deserves whoever his wide receiver coach, who I don't know who it was, but he was a really finished product when he got here. And he's only gotten better. And AJ, I mean, I didn't think he was a top 5 receiver when he got here, but I didn't get to see him every day, in Tennessee. And again, it's very similar in Tennessee to what he was here last year because they had Derrick Henry in this prime, Saquon Barkley. So it was a run first offense. So it wasn't the high volume, but he was damn good. I remember having this argument with Jody. I was like, he's top 10 receiver in the NFL, but I didn't know he was this good. And he has gotten better and better. So yeah, I think Aaron deserves credit to elevating those guys, even because that's what your job as a coach to do. I always get them a little bit farther than where they can get on their own. Well, Devontae and AJ can get really far on their own, and Aaron's gotten them a little bit and elevated them a little bit, and that's his job description. I think he's done a really good job. But with those backup receivers, I think people get hyper focused on the receiving aspect of it. It makes sense, right? But that's not their job. That's not their role. They got to have dual roles. They got to play special teams. They got to return kicks. If they're not gunners, if they're not coverage people, they got to return kicks. You got to contribute somewhere else because of the nature of an NFL roster. So I think, and then when they're forced to play because of an injury, maybe you kept a special teams guy and you don't keep Terrace Marshall, who would be better equipped if, God forbid, somebody gets hurt for a long period of time. You want Terrace Marshall in there. Not saying he's going to be great.
Right.
You don't want Johnny Wilson in there. But of those two, I say Johnny Wilson's got a better chance to make the Philadelphia Eagles than Terrace Marshall, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So,
no, it does. It does. CT, thank you, brother. Appreciate the super chat there. By the way, I got like a huge jackhammer going on outside the way. I'm not sure if it's coming through my mic. I
have not heard it.
Okay, good. Because it's like loud. He's like right.
I had that yesterday. I was on the radio in Salt Lake City yesterday. And I kid you not, there were like 3. I was getting my lawn done, and then 2 houses around me were getting their lawns done. It was like fireworks. I couldn't go anywhere to get any kind of quiet.
Shredding pavement, man, on the jackhammer. So I'm good that you guys can't hear it. CT, thank you, brother. Appreciate that. By the way, I have one super chat from Jared Hatfield, and I'll read that. It's not in the show today. So after the show, people can do super chats in the comments after on the actual YouTube comments, not the live chat. So I'll read his. He dropped it twice, and I forgot to read it yesterday. So I'll read it today. Kimberly Sirico says, Von Miller as Kami. It's the cast of movie Cocoon. No, I don't know that movie.
Yeah, he's talking about age. It's a very age, which, it's a give and take. I mean, you could have said that about Brandon Graham or Slay. People could have made the age jokes. If he plays well, you're not going to be making the age jokes. If he doesn't, you're probably going to be making the age jokes.
Right. We'll see what ends up happening there. Thank you, Kimberly, for the super chat. Thanks, everybody, for the super chats today. Thank you for all the great support today. Are we up over 100 likes? I mean, come on. We got the season starting next week. We got to get over 100 likes now. It's time they start getting some freaking likes back on the show. Thanks, everybody, for being here. I'm going to go to the super chat in the comments. Alfredo, I did get to your super chat. We do not know we're not allowed to release what time that thing is. Jared Hatfield, John, $5 super chat in the comments section, not in the live chat, says, for J Mack and Co., speaking on how Jalen will have to perform next season, logic tells you he needs to pass more, but it's hard for me to envision his pass attempts being dramatically different than last season when you factor in the fact that a lot of those Saquon runs were changed at the line of scrimmage by Jalen. So are we expecting him to do that less, or is the opportunity going to be there less? I doubt it. I get the tougher schedule stuff, but that's what the Eagles offense is at its core. I don't expect that to change. That's Jared Hatfield 2806 in our comments. What do you think, Johnny Mac?
I think I expect them to be a run-first team, but I think the personality of the game is more important than there's a whole bunch of stuff that goes into it. One, do you want to limit Saquon's? I don't think so. A lot of people talk about managing his touches. I think the Eagles are going to ride that if they can ride it. How do people stop it? Do people adjust? Do they make it more difficult? Are you more in third and long situations? Obvious passing situations? Are you behind more in the fourth quarter? That has more to do with the personality of the game. If everything goes the way it did last year, it's going to look very similar. They're ahead late. They're going to run the ball to close games. If it's closer and they're struggling a little bit more, a lot of it has to do with the defense. Defense was the best defense in football. What if they're middle of the pack with all these changes? It's going to force you to throw the football more. Here's where it was: 432, 460, 538, 361. That's Jalen Hurts' pass attempts per season. 432, 460, 538, 361. Is it going to go up from 361? Probably. Is it going to hit 538? Probably not. 430 to 460, that would be my best guess.
We'll see what ends up happening. Johnny Mack, great show today. And Jared Hatfield, thank you for that super chat, brother. In the comments, you sent it twice, so I apologize for not getting to it. You said, Z, you forgot to read it. I'll send it again. So you did it. I appreciate that, man. That support of the channel. I appreciate everybody for being here today. John, it's been a fun offseason, my friend. I think we've handled it pretty well. I think we have covered everything extensively. Every nut and bolt out there that you could hit on. I believe we hit on it. We covered it. We talked about it. We laid it out for the people, for the consumption. And now it's all here so we can analyze it in real time.
Yeah,
now,
and it's
forward.
here. It's here. Eagles will receive their Super Bowl rings tonight. The coaches are back at work tomorrow. So everybody celebrates. Nobody get too drunk. And then the players reports on Tuesday of next week on the practice field Wednesday morning.
Can't wait for it to happen, Johnny Mac. John, your final thoughts on today's show as we wrap up the offseason on Birds 365 and prepare.
Yeah, it's a good way to wrap it up, to get those Super Bowl rings and, say that's about, and I'm sure that'll be Nick Sirianni's messaging, and use that. That's about last season. This is a new iteration, as Jalen Hurts called it, of the Philadelphia Eagles. Time to do it again. Time to climb that mountain again.
Yep, no doubt about it. We'll see if they can do it. And I'm looking forward to it, Johnny Mack. John, great week of shows, great off-season of shows, my friend. And we kick this thing into high gear starting next Tuesday, really next Wednesday, but starting next week. Appreciate it, Johnny Mack. Appreciate all the work from this off-season. I think the viewers appreciate it as well. I don't think there's any Eagles coverage anywhere, John, that goes all through the offseason like we have here on Birds 365. I hope the viewers appreciate it. I know that they say they do, and there's a lot of you in here, so I appreciate that very much. But I'm proud of what we've done this offseason, John, and I'm looking forward to the season together, brother.
Me as well. Let's get it going. I got one more weekend. I got to charge the batteries. Let's go.
Charge them up, Johnny Mack.
The grind begins.
I'll charge them up. I'll talk to you on Monday, my friend. Thank you, Johnny Mack.
All right, thanks, everybody.
All right, there's Johnny Mack. John McMullen here on Birds 365, wrapping up, in my eyes, the final off-season show of Birds 365. A great one at that. A great topic. Running around all the topics as we prepare for training camp.